YouTube? It's Dark Knight 007. I'd like to welcome you to my channel. And one of the reasons why I even created this channel was so we could talk or debate about certain things that are going on in the world today. And some of those things will be past, current events. It could be conspiracy theories, flat earth, space, scientism, and other such topics. But today what I want to kind of touch on is space, flat earth, and the moon missions. So down the rabbit hole I go into a Pandora's box. Basically, I learned a few things later in life, or earlier in life actually, and later, but that would basically open my mind to what's going on today and what a lot of people are talking about and things that are coming up in the news. So the flat earth is like one of the main topics. But if you could get to the point of talking about space and the moon missions, where the Apollo missions done things that they can't replicate today. Like for instance, they shot a Saturn V rocket up in the air into space to the moon, dropped somebody off, went out there, played around on a rover, collected some rocks, did some jumps, played around, shot back up, connected back to the LEM or the orbiter or whatever you want to call that thing, came back to Earth, and so on and so forth. Now, I'm going to tell you that I believed in it too. I was programmed just like everybody else was. Basically, the lights came on. The switch was flipped. So with that being said, I am trying to allow other people to turn off or turn on, however you want to look at it, their switch from the programming. So the moon mission. So Apollo, first of all, we've got so-called these Van Allen belts that surround the planet and intense radiation and all these type of things, and you can't go through it. They can't figure out how to get through it, but Apollo did. So how did that happen? But let's give them the benefit of the doubt that they made their way through it and they got to the moon and they landed. Well, I beg to differ. When the Saturn V rocket lifted off, it actually went up, and then the ground crews were actually filming it. And then once it reached a certain height or whatever it was, then the camera switched to a different shot, a shot from the bottom half of the rocket. So that's where the deception starts, because that rocket goes up and then it tilts over, over the ocean, and then it goes out of sight. Now, that type of thing actually is the deception. It goes out of sight, so you don't know where it actually goes. You know it went up high, and then it tilts, and starts to go parallel with the land mass. Okay, so check it out. If you shoot a rocket up, straight up in the air, then truly you should hit space, because there's nothing there but atmosphere, and then you hit space, which is a vacuum. Now, with space in a vacuum, there should be, or whatever it is, a barrier. There should be a barrier to that thing. But there is no such thing. There is, but not the way that they tell you. They try to tell you that, you have to go at a certain angle in order to escape the planet's velocity so you can go to space. Well, I beg to differ. There's videos and documentation out there that state, like, go fast, for instance. And I will probably post a link to that video in the description below. But Go Fast rocket, they shoot this thing up 73 miles into the air, straight up. There's no curve, there's no going over the ocean, straight up. So it goes straight up, and at 73 miles, this thing hits something. What does it hit? What does this thing hit in our atmosphere? Well, it hit something, because it started veering off, it started toppling and wobbling real slow, and it had microphones on this thing. And what it sounded like is that it was like in some type of water, is what it sounded like. But that's not the case, or it could be. So it goes up, it hits this thing, it separates from itself, the separation occurs, and then the bottom half starts floating, and then it starts to fall back down to earth. The top half stays up there for a little bit while. It's doing all kinds of maneuvers, and in those maneuvers, it does show the moon, which is supposed to be on the other side of the planet. That's another topic for another day. But so after a while of it doing these motions, then it starts to fall back down, falls back down the earth. What does that thing hit? Because NASA has never shown anything of any of their rockets or craft or anything that they shoot up doing such types of things. They don't show anything. They show you going up and then bam, they're in space. That's what it shows. But the Go Fast rocket does something different. So what does it actually hit? Well, that's where kind of the flat earth comes in. So what I'm thinking is that, and a lot of people can back me on this, that it hits the barrier, or it hits the firmament, or the dome, or whatever everybody wants to call it. It hits something. It's probably some kind of supersaline type of, structure that, obviously it resembles what we look at. It looks like the sky. It's blue, or it's blue from our perspective down on the planet. When you go up, then it starts to look black, or the color dissipates. Whatever that thing is, obviously it's, pretty high tech, or pretty good as far as keeping us in, or on the planet. So what I like to say is that, how did Apollo get past that and then get to the moon? Well, there's no way. If you ever seen the other documentary that is called a Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon, that's another documentary, and I'll probably post a link down in the description. But that tells you that those astronauts, they are in Earth's orbit, and they are basically hijacking the scene and creating a scene of them being halfway to the moon, which they're not. And then a day later, they're at the moon. The moon is supposed to be like 3 days away or something like that, and they're like halfway through. Anyways, it's something that everyone starts to ask questions on, because when you start to see discrepancies in their story, then that's when the lies start to protrude from the truth. You need to really think about the lies that are embedded within the truth, and vice versa. The truth that is being told, you have to see the lies that are embedded with that as well. Us, and I would call myself basically, yes, a flat earther. Once you get to that point, once you open up that Pandora's box about the flat earth and the moon missions and all that type of stuff, then you start to see the earth, or the plane, or whatever you want to call it, as it really is. And you start to see the lies. And if they're going to lie about the main thing that we live on, then everything else is up for grabs. They're going to lie about everything. NASA brings in $53 billion a year. You think they're going to want to give that up because somebody is talking smack or telling the truth or whatnot? No, they're not going to do that. They are not going to do that. They are going to send out their agents and send out their people to hush these people, or to do something otherwise, or whatever it is. They'll have people going on YouTube and talking about other things, saying, no, that's not the case, and no, that's a lie, and this and that. So you got two factions going against each other. Which one is real? Which one is not? Well, do the research for yourself. Go look it up. Check it out for yourself. Did you check it out? And then you'll see what me and a whole host of other people are actually talking about. So what I would like to get to also with the moon missions, and okay, so let's just say you have the planet, and I'm going to check this out. You've got, let's say this is the planet, right? And you got a spaceship that comes off of it. Okay, that spaceship top speed is 17,500 miles an hour, as what they tell you. 17,500 miles an hour. The Earth itself is going 66,000 miles an hour around the sun. 1,000 miles an hour spinning on its axis, 66 around the sun, and then another 600 around the solar system or through the solar system. Remember all those sixes, because those are going to, come to light later in some other episodes that I might post. But so if you got a planet that's doing 66,000 miles an hour, and then you've got the spaceship that comes off that's doing 17,000. Okay, the Earth is going to leave that thing. As soon as you lift off, it's gone. And they're both doing relative motion, but this one's going to take off quicker than this one, right? And they're supposed to go to the moon, which is coming up this way. Let's just hope and give them the benefit of the doubt that it's coming this way. So they lift off the Earth, they go this way, right? The moon comes in this way, all right? The moon is coming at you at 66,000 miles an hour, and you're going at it at 17.5. How the heck did they slow down to land on that thing? Just a question, right? How did they do that? All right, sorry about that. Sister was calling me on the phone. So anyways, how did that spaceship or craft slow down without it hitting the moon that's coming at you at 66,000 miles an hour? You've got a moth versus a, what do you call this? Your windshield. Just say your windshield in your car, okay? A moth ain't got a chance, and sometimes they get sucked into the, windshield of your car, only because the car is coming at a velocity that they can't get away from, and then if they do try to get or veer off from it, then they get sucked in because of the amount of force that is coming past you. So you get sucked into it. So how does the Apollo craft, and they try to say it goes around the moon and then slingshots around. There is no evidence that ever happens anywhere. It's not been proven. And to me, it's just a bunch of hogwash. I have never seen that happen. And if anybody wanted to do a test, or some repeatable scientific method type stuff on that to try to prove that can be the case, I would love to see that. I would love to see it. So that in itself tells you that something is wrong here. Something is very wrong with this picture. And then the amount of what you're seeing, yeah, they're moving, they're doing this, they're doing all these movements, and the equations and the speed of what they're telling you can't be true, because those things cannot happen. They cannot replicate that type of stuff. Nor would they want to, because they know it will prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that they're lying. It will prove that. So, with that being said, let's say that they even got there. Let's say that they did all the things they did and say that they got there. Okay. The lander has a rocket attached to it. They tested it here on Earth in a certain capacity, but they've never landed it with 100% accuracy. Never done it. It's always crashed. It's always crashed. So, how in the world do you send somebody 240,000 miles away to land on something in a vehicle that has never landed correctly anytime with them building it? And you're going to send these people off there. Well, that's beyond me. I wouldn't do it. I don't know why they would. But anyways, so you got that going on. And then on top of that, they got a rocket that, comes down to the surface, and it's using a regular rocket engine to, adjust its force or whatever and to land. When that thing lands, and even Neil Armstrong says before he's landing, kicking up some dust. He says it literally. Once he lands, they get out, they get on the, onto the surface, and then they take shots of, the lander or LEM or whatever they want to call it. They have it there. And they show, basically the landing pads and stuff. There's not one speck of dust in there. So where did all that dust go? Normally, when you see the astronauts walking around, they have dust all over their suits. There's dust on the rover. There's dust on this and dust on that. But the lander is clean as day. And the land underneath the rocket should have a scour mark or a pit, you know, or something that would state that that thing came down and landed there. Nothing. Nothing. That type of stuff tells me that this is a lie. And once I found that out, I knew that everything else that they were telling us were probably a lie as well. So that's when I started to venture into, you know, space, you know, and then obviously that leads you into basically the flat earth, because once you find out that space isn't real or what they're not, or what they're telling you, and that these guys didn't go to the moon, and you know they were probably off somewhere else back in California somewhere in some pool, whatever, then you start to realize that the flat earth itself has some validity to it. We are in a special place, everyone, and I would like to believe that all of us are not some insignificant being on a planet. We are something special. We are in an environment that is created for us and the animals and plants that are here as well. So I would like to go ahead and, kind of sum this up for today, and then we'll get back to other topics in later dates. I'm going to try to post something at least once a week for now, and we'll go from there. But to sum this up, the flat earth, the space, moon missions, the firmament, the Go Fast rocket, all that stuff starts to tie in together, and you start to paint a picture of what reality really is, and what you're being told is not the truth. It's not the truth. So when you look outside and you look out over the ocean, you look out over some terrain, you get on top of a mountain, you look out, you're in a plane, 35, 40,000 feet when you look out. But just be sure that you know that the actual window that you're looking out is curved, and then, pictures and cameras and stuff like that, lenses are curved, and, they got fisheye lenses, they got correctors, and then they got lenses that are not fisheye. But when you look out, you're going to know, and from what you see is flat. Use your senses, people. The 6 senses, 5 senses, whatever senses you got, use those, because God gave those to you guys for a reason. Instead of having some scientists tell you that your senses are not viable and that you have to listen to us and we'll tell you what's real and what's not. The earth is flat. Space is something else that we really don't know what it is. There is a firmament, a barrier, a dome, whatever you want to call it, that is above us, and it's, I would say, not a magical thing, but it has properties to it that might seem magical to us. When we look out from the face of the earth and when we look up, it's blue on a clear day. It's blue. And where does that blueness come from? Well, whatever compounds that thing is made up of, it's not a reflection of the ocean, I can tell you that. If you're in a desert and you're looking up, if it's a reflection, it should be a reflection of the desert. It should be brown, but it's not. It's blue. Blue, no matter where you go, where you're at, it's blue. Those are the properties of that thing, and the property of the system in which we live in. It's flat. Space is not real, or it's not what we're being told, and the moon missions are fake. If you got any questions or comments, leave them down below. I'll answer anything. I take constructive criticism. I look at a lot of things. And so, like and subscribe to my channel if you want more, or if you want to listen to more, or even debate me, or whatever. We can do it all. And you guys have a great day. This is Dark Knight 007 signing out. Peace.